Hello, everybody. It's Marty the JavaScript Party. I'm my buddy Rhett. I've got a walnut here that I cracked for her. Just got started cracking, so this should be a lot of work. She really wants it. I've been doing that a lot lately because we got a bunch of those in our bag of nuts. So one of the luxuries, absolute luxuries of having a small YouTube channel is that in the rare circumstance that someone puts a comment on your video, you can kind of like dig into them. You can just look and try to understand them and try to get try to kind of figure out what they're all about and all that. And this very seemed what appears to be a very bright individual put a comment on one of my videos a few days ago, and it was where I was talking about cars and houses and having a house. You can't create a singleton car service and a singleton house service and inject them into each other because you'll get a circular dependency error. And I don't think there's anything fundamentally wrong with the concept of creating two services and using them with each other. Maybe there is. I don't know. Like, just to be clear, like I went to college for electrical engineering. I've been working as a computer programmer for, was it 2026? So 30 years exactly. Is that right? 1996. Yeah. So for 30 years, I've worked as a computer programmer. Now, the first couple of years, I was actually not a programmer. I was a uh, engineer, systems engineer, and I wrote software requirements for 2 years. But I started coding in the very the, like in 19, I want to say 1980, set 1979, something like that. That's when I first started coding. And I did when I first started junior college, I actually did take a computer programming class, but I hated it. So, but I had been programming, so I was into programming, but I didn't really like the computer program. It was Fortran 77, and it was like spaces, and I was in a class with like 20 other people, but only the professor's computer was the only one that could actually compile the code and execute the code. It was a thing, it was just no fun. So basically, everybody would race to write some code, and then you'd go stand in line with your floppy disk, and then you would hand it to the teacher, and the teacher would put it in his computer and try to run it, and then spend the rest of the class debugging the very first person's code. So yeah, it was just not a very fun, and it was a very uncomfortable environment. It was like a class that was, I think, designed for like 8 people. Um, but anyways, this person. So I don't really have a computer science background at all. But I have been working with a really good boss like the last couple of years who's heavily steeped in computer science, and he's been sharing like all these concepts about like inheritance versus um, where you put two things together. Man, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on the word, but where but and so so I think people who are steeped in computer science, they aren't going to run into this problem because they're probably going to, and I think it's a good idea, but you create like your services, and then anything that wants to use services dependency injects those services into the component or into a class, and then that class does whatever it needs to do between the two components. So I think, and so I think that's sort of a standard way. Like if I now that I'm really starting to see a lot of my boss's code, I see that that is a standard pattern that he does in general is he creates like services, and then he dependency injects all the services that are needed in another class, and then the other class then uses those services. And so if you do that, you would never run into that. I don't think you'd ever run into that circular dependency issue. So that may be one reason why, like a lot of places, don't really run into it. Um, every place I've ever worked, a lot of places that I've ever worked have run into that, and no one understands what's happening. Um, The other thing that this person pointed out is that I could use NGRX, a state management scheme, and with that, I probably wouldn't have any of these problems. And that's exactly true. If you do use it, because the reason I ran into the problem was because I was trying to um, get, I needed to get, I had an object that had IDs, and I needed to get the actual object so I could operate on the object. And so I wanted to inject the other service that knows how to get that object, and that's where I ended up getting the circular reference. Um, but I wouldn't have ever needed to do that if I was using something like NGRX. Now, if I'm being completely honest, and I try to be as honest and straightforward, is I have tried to use NGRX several times and botched it every time. Like every single time, it's been like, I don't understand. This doesn't work. I don't know what this is doing. I don't get it. Um, so I have tried it. I have worked in a few places that had NGRX. Like if you look in their package.json, they have NGRX, but it was used on a very limited scope, or actually just abandoned with a bunch of dead code that no one knows what it does. So my experiences with, from a practical perspective, with NGRX are extraordinarily negative. Um, but I do. There's a lot of people I genuinely trust and admire that are big, that really, really believe in NGRX. So there's that. But anyways, I definitely appreciated it. I do think that the person I did, I kind of could decode what their name was, and since I was just watching Netflix last night, having a couple drinks, and so I just did some googling of this individual, and this individual, if I found the right person, um, is an engineer, not a computer programmer. Does not seem to have any uh, tr- like education in computer programming, um, and just seems to use computer programming as a way to accommodate to 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 get to reach engineering goals. And I do think that that is the future. I don't think there will be a future with computer as professional with computer professional computer programmers. I think it's going to be more like a skill like reading, writing, algebra, trigonometry, those sorts of things, where it's like something that you use and you're kind of expected to know already as part of your profession. That it's not really a profession in and of itself. So, and I've been saying that for 20 plus years. That's the reason I've kind of strongly discouraged my children from going into computer programming, was because um, I don't think it has legs as a profession. Um, but I've been wrong about that a lot. Like, because I mean, honestly, like I was just like, oh, engineering is way got much. I didn't think. Well, actually, when I first went to college, computer programmers just didn't even make that much money. And actually, when I was like a kid, I worked at this restaurant that could seat 5,000 people, and this was in 1984, I want to say, and they had like Sun workstations, and they had at this restaurant, and it had its own custom network, local area network, and everything was like automated, and like people put the waiter put their order into the system, and then the system would, like, let's say they got a salad. Let's say they ordered steak, then it would be like, okay, this this little order goes to the salad area, and then the salad people would make the salad, and then like 15 minutes later, um, like if it was a steak, maybe 5 minutes later it would go to the steak area. But let's say it was uh, lobster, then lobsters I don't think take as long to cook, so then it would be like 15 minutes. Like they had it really coded up, and they had two professional computer programmers, and I believe those guys made like $7 an hour. Now, minimum wage at that time was $3.35 an hour, and you could rent like a nice apartment for like $300 a month. So $7 an hour was like like you could actually live on that. But the top waiters and waitresses in that same restaurant were making like $1,200 a week. So they were literally making 4 times as much as the computer programmers. And that kind of turned on its head for most of my career, but it does seem like we are slowly but surely kind of reverting back to that. Um, but anyways, so this person is not a professional computer programmer, and um, the person definitely seems to be super bright and seems to know how to code. So I don't know what to say of that. So I have one change right now, and it's this package is to create this service. So we're basically doing if I now it's starting to come to me, we're doing like a refactor of the of the of animation. So right now, if you look in, I think we may have two. Let me do this. Control P animation. So we have an animation service, and we have yeah. So all we have is this one animation service, and we have an interface called animations, and we have a unit test for animations. So, anyways, so if you look in our animations, basically there's sort of this could be divided into like kind of three kinds of work. One is like this kind of work where it's like interacting straight with the three, right? So this is like a just a three specific behavior, right? We give it a mesh and we give it our ST animation and it converts this ST animation into some action inside of the mesh. So let's see, it looks like it may actually also update. Oh, so then it also updates some information about what we just did. Um, no, it didn't. This is just reading. It's not updating. Yeah, so it looks like all we do is take our animation and we just convert it. We're just taking this information and this information and we're applying it to 3 mesh. So I, if you look in here, we have a um, we have a 3 section, and this section was set aside specifically to handle this kind of behavior. Like it's the thing that knows how, it's the area where we put code that knows how to interact with ThreeJS. Let's go to another line. So this is our update property for animations, update mesh for animation. So it looks like this is also the same thing. Like it looks like we just expose this function. Um, and then create animation function for ID. So now to me, this one looks like it's all about interacting with the renderer. Is that right? Your service. Create animation for ID. Okay, no, this is actually creating. Do we even? I wonder if we use this function anymore. I feel like this function might not be being used anymore, or it's being used in a different way. So I'm going to do a search. Actually, let's do this. Let's put a letter here. We're just going to rename it. And we're just going to see if this thing breaks down here. Yes, it did break. So inside of our renderer service, it looks like we call the animation service and we create a renderer. We create an animation function for ID. Oh, and it caught that this is where it was declared. It's kind of funny. It's like it knows that this was the one I was supposed to call. So let's come back over here. So render function. Okay, so when we create a renderer, right, this is our get base render. when we create a renderer, we do create an animation function. And then we set our animation function for stid. All right, so let's go back here. So we definitely are using that. I don't know exactly why, but it looks like this is all. So it gets an st renderer. It's kind of, oh, okay. So this was set aside. Okay, so this function I think is what gives the scene mesh IDs, st mesh. So I think the whole purpose of this, now that I'm looking at it, is to generate is to give a reference that this is still in its context. So we want this scene we get the scene from the scene service, and then we have a reference to it, which then inside of this function, it still can access this. And I'm guessing that this function gets called by the renderer service. I mean, by the animation frame. So console log. So I think that what we're going to see is that this hello world just gets called over and over and over again. So hit F12 to bring up my editor there. Yeah, see. So this function ends up getting called 60 times a second, and that's what's updating this screen. So I think that, I don't know where this, I think this one would fall under like browser specific. Like we are writing this code specifically for the browser, I think. And I would believe that that would go inside of, I love you too, inside this UI. And I think that in my packages, I have created a spot, a little script to create that. All right, let's go. No. Visualization layout. So I don't know when this thing gets called. This function run. Oh, so this one also gets called 60 times a second. And maybe it's called from in here. Let's see. Let's see. I think maybe we can say find implementations, or is it find references? I don't know. Let's see. What if we rename it? Okay, so inside of our, okay, so that is this. Okay, let's try that. Let's put an A in front of that and see where it breaks. Okay, so this gets called okay. Animation visualization layout. Oh, so in the component we call this one directly. So when the component comes up, so that is interesting that it gets called out over and over again. It doesn't seem like it should. Oh yeah, it does. Oh, and this one gets actually called over and over again without even having a it doesn't even exist. We don't even have a single visualization, and for some reason it's getting called. I feel like I don't think I like that. Like the very confused. So I think, okay, so this must be the piece that lays the, okay, so this is, I think, what lays things out across, like at the top level. So if we go add, 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 I think this is the piece that um, figures out where these go. So like if I were to just comment all this code out, I believe what would happen is, and see, this is how you create a mess. Yeah, see, they're all that. So this is, so like these are things that are sort of kind of related, but not really. Um, and um, and so conceptually, I think this one actually goes in inside of um, UI, but not in animation. This seems like this goes in maybe positioning. UI service, delete render. Okay, so I don't know. Okay, that is not what I thought. I could have sworn there was a thing called platform. Oh yeah, it was under utilities, positioning. It almost feels like this is where it belongs. Calculate, visualization, set events. So this is handling resizing, but it seems like this is also, yeah, this is absolutely related because I think this is the code that handles, like when I do this, yeah, changing these positions of these things. So I feel like that code actually goes in here. And then set position, seems like this goes set position for a component. Definitely seems like it would go in this positioning for, and it does seem like it's directly related to the platform. This is where we set left and top. So this is where we set the actual positions. Then create animations for couch. This is where we actually create an animation. So this is seems like it would go in ST animations. And then update visualization layout. This definitely feels like it's part of, let's see, um, the positioning. So yeah, so basically all of these things I think are arguably belong in the animation service, but the animation service is now too, it's got too many subjects, so too many topics, too many ideas that it's trying to, it's subdivided into. And so now we need to start teasing those things apart. Um, and like, I don't know, it's hard. As a Gen Xer in the US, we were very, very discouraged from making excuses. Excuse making was highly frowned upon and many, many times enforced through corporal punishment. So like if you made excuses, you got a spanking. Um, so so I'm generally pretty hesitant to make excuses or do anything that even seems like making an excuse, but I don't feel like I'm making excuses here. I'm more like explaining why these sort of all got thrown into one pot, and that was because animations was one of the very was the very first thing that was like legitimately created in the system. And so when we built out creation, every time we built out more and more creation, um, it got better. We got a little better, we got a little better, we got a little better. And now this very first thing is so primitive and so confusing. Um, but to me, it seems like, okay, so let's go back to the beginning of this video, and SRAM is going to make us a request animation frame service. And this is going to be probably the hardest one to sort of wrap my head around. But basically, what I'm expecting to see is inside of my UI. Sometime at some point, I'm gonna have to figure out. I think this whole positioning thing should go inside of UI service. Um, I know I'm going back and forth, but I think utilities is just too general. And I do think that when I wanted to set up utilities, um, the ChatGPT like kind of counseled against that. It was like, that's too generic. Or maybe that was another project I was working on. Anyways, npm run sram. So that's going to execute this function that's inside of my packages. And what I'm expecting to do is see a new UI service. Now, at this point, we have 1, 2, 3. So 4. When I get to 4, that's when I start trying to figure out, okay, how do I break this down into another set of folders? F4 is when I start thinking. I try not to ever even think about it until I get to 4. Um, and so we have a viewport, resize. We have a viewport service, and then we have a viewport resize service. We have a UI service, and we have a request animation preview. And I kind of think that UI service was created specifically. Um, oh, composition. That was the word I was trying. Across entities, I think. See, so you could tell. I think I misspelled across. I don't know. Let's see. ACCROSS. Nope, it's one C. Okay, so I did misspell it. All right, so let's fix this spelling. And all right, so yeah, so I think this literally was only there because I couldn't figure out. I think I was like randomly trying things to try to get around a cyclic dependency, and now I understand it. And it does seem like these publish, render, or change doesn't feel like this um, belong. I don't know, but anyways, uh, it definitely it seems like these three belong in their own little folder, and it seems like positioning should go up into this folder, and then it feels like um, I wonder about timing. Um, Quest animation frame service. So basically, anything that is kind of destined specifically to be executed in the request animation frame probably should end up in here. I think I kind of have stuff a bit um, scattered at the moment. So anyways, so let's go back into our animation service. And I think request animation frame. Okay, so I think create animation function needs to go over there. So now let's think. Okay, so once I get that, I'm going to want to call it. But I know that I'm not going to be able to like inject the animation service. So the ST renderer, it's going to have a scene ID. It needs to get like um so yeah, so this will be good. I'm gonna end up creating a bunch of I'm gonna create a situation where I would normally run into problems with um, with the the cyclic dependency. And so I'm kind of trying to tread lightly here. I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so we call this create function for ID. I do not think. Okay, so we're gonna copy this, right? And then gonna try to move it over here. Okay, and let's go ahead and put a comment in here. So anything that is interacting with or destined to go to the request animation frame should be in here in this service. I don't know if that's right or not, but that's what we're doing for now. All right, so we got all kinds of problems, right? First of all, it has no idea what an ST render is. This is very safe. This is just literally just import. Let's go ahead and import our render. Okay, so ST scene, same thing. So we're going to import our interface. Now here's where things get tricky, right? So we have a for root service. And then, so does it make sense? I think it makes better sense. I don't know. I'm doing something I've never really done before. Um, I'm going to create my constructor, and then I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to say scene service. I'm not going to use the injector. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say scene st scene service, and then colon st scene service. All right. So all we did was declare our st scene service, but we did not use the inject function from Angular to inject it. We're going to actually inject it here. St. Which is an st. And then I'm going to say this dot st scene service is equal to st service. All right, so basically when I create this request animation frame service, it's going to construct it. So we don't want this to be for root if we're going to do this. So I'm going to get rid of that. I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I think this is going to work. I don't know. This is new. This is completely new to me. Very well, maybe like um, um, I might be destroying this application at this point. Um, like I literally may end up figuring out, oh my gosh, I like literally just ruined this entire application. I have to start from scratch. I doubt it, but so now we're going to try st mesh service. And that's st mesh. It's kind of funny because it looks so much like before when we used to um, declare everything in the constructor to do injections. Now here we are back. So funny. ST. C. And I will say this is something that we totally do all the time in my at my job in our C sharp. This looks so much like that C sharp code. All right. So basically, I guess what we're doing is we're doing our own injection. Okay, so we want to import R3. What? Okay, so we don't want this anymore. Let me see if I can do this from memory. I used to be able to do it from memory. Import. Is it star? From 3 as 3. Oops, that's not right. Okay, so I'm gonna put a semicolon there. I think is it like that? 3. Maybe it was this way around. All right, so I'm close. I think I'm very, very close. Can't remember exactly how to do it. Import star as 3 from, oh, I needed quotes in lowercase. All right. It's good to like exercise your brain like that, right? Like if you don't like actually use your brain to remember things like that, you will end up forgetting. All right, so we got our 3 mesh service. Okay. Um, and this is and then con. We don't want that, and then we want to bring this in like this. All right, so let's see how we did this in the animation service. Import. Oh, okay, so I never put. I kind of regret that. I think I wish I had have named them 3. I would have put the 3 in there. Okay, so now I think it can find. And I am not advising anyone to do what I'm doing right now. Like I'm learning. I'm trying to try things out that I would never try at work. Stuff like that. So, um, you know, there are very few consequences for me making a mistake here. All right. ST animation. So this is just an interface. ST animation dict. Okay. So this is kind of a bummer because, okay, so this gets passed in, right? I mean, this probably should be passed in. The actual animation for ID. And see, this is for, I wonder what kind of ID, ST renderer. We pass in the whole renderer. So that's for our scene ID. We don't even, it's kind of funny because this is create animation function for ID, and then we pass in a renderer. Okay, so I do think map, animation ID map, and then it gets the whole animation. Oh, okay, and actually it's a list of animations. So I almost feel like we should pass in the animations. Like this should be up here. Like that. And then instead of this being there, wherever we're going to call this thing, which I'm guessing is from the animation service, but I don't know. Okay, who calls this? Really, that should be for renderer, not for ID. Okay, so it doesn't get called from here. Ooh, Lorda, 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 Lorda. All right. Okay, so we are in what is this? This is called the animation service. Okay, so first of all, I want to change this to renderer because we are actually doing it for a renderer. And then fix it wherever it breaks and figure out what the heck we're doing on there. So refactoring is hard. I mean, there's just no way around it. Okay, so this is getting called. Where am I? I am in I feel like, okay, I'm in the renderer service. So that actually makes sense. That from the renderer service, and I think that was literally the only place that it's called. Okay. So I do think that then, if that is in fact the case, that it makes sense for this. Okay, so at this point, we're assuming that this is getting passed in. And then update properties for animations. So I feel like this one, so this one, okay, so here we're actually going through each mesh and ST animations, animation. And then we're saying, hey, if it's a three mesh, if three mesh, if three mesh. Okay, here's where we get our mesh ID. We're going to update our property for the animation, which is a whole nother function that doesn't exist. So we need to, I think, so I think we decided that this one is actually a three this one should be created from our three service, a three service, because really it knows how to take an ST animation and it knows how to, I'm going to change that ST animation. I think we're going to end up with other kinds of animations too, like maybe music animations, stuff like that. All right. So it's going to do that. And then what is this doing? Constant scene, get scene by ID, get camera by ID. Oh, and then this is what tells the renderer to render everything. So we make changes in our scene, in the ThreeJS scene, but it won't get, I don't think it'll actually get ran until it gets re-rendered. And this, I think, is the piece that does it. And see, since it doesn't have an ST in front of it, it's probably in our 3 area. And so, oddly enough, okay, so this request animation frame function, the last thing it needs to do is actually go into the renderer and update that. So we do need our scene service, our camera service, and our renderer service. So I'm just going to try this again. And this was our scene, right? So it's actually our 3 scene service. And over here, I've been making these SVCs. I feel like I'm going down a path here that is like a learn it yourself kind of path. Like there's probably people, if anyone, like there are probably individuals that could watch this and then they'd be like, "Oh, dude, you're literally just moving down and you're going to end up here." But man, I'll tell you, the the many times, especially when you're coding, the trip is more valuable than the destination. Like learning how um, um, learning how to I mean, like the lessons that are learned in the process of understanding something is more important than the actual understanding of the thing. And that's probably what I'm going through right now. SVC. Because because of the way this is going to be, I don't think that I have a risk of a cyclic dependency because this isn't a for root. This is just a class. So that's one. And then, oh, and okay, I want to change this to 3. All right. And then we want to do the same thing for our 3 camera service. See, I can't imagine us ever having another camera service. Like, I think, like, but I can see animations being like from other things. I definitely feel like regressing here because I definitely used to do this all the time, and then that new inject thing came along, and I started doing that, and now, and I don't know, maybe I don't know, I don't really know. Okay, so let's go back down here, and then render service equal to render service. And then same thing here. Let's just go ahead and copy this. Put a comma there. Render service is equal to 3. All right. Man, this looks just like the old-fashioned stuff, except that you didn't used to have to do this, and maybe you still don't. I don't know. Maybe if I'd have just named this, it would have automatically assigned it. But for now, I'm glad I've learned this step of what's happening. All right. And then so we make this a 3. All right. So now our problem is update property for animation. And this, I believe, needs to go in a whole different function. Okay, so and maybe it makes sense to inject the animation service in here. I mean, probably does make sense to inject the animation service in here. And then if that is the case, then I can call the 3 animation service and update that. And then when we move it, yeah, I think that's what I want to do. Okay, so now this is called animation service. I think it should be called a ST animation service. It probably, actually, this one will probably go away. And yeah, I'm guessing this whole thing is gonna go away. I'm guessing, and it will be replaced by 3 other services. Um, so I'm just gonna say animation service, animation, and then animation service, and then we're gonna do this, comma, animation service. So I believe when we do a commitment, the final commitment, the final commit, what'll happen is this will be gone. Animation service won't even exist anymore. I don't know for sure, but I think so. Let's just go with our standard that we were doing. And animation service. Now, what we do at work, now that I think about it, is we actually name this like this, underscore, and then this. That makes so much more sense to me now. Okay, so now I should be able to call this dot animation service. And I'm guessing update properties is private. So we'll go ahead and just get rid of that. I'm amazed at how often, so I have a friend that I work with who uses that private a lot. And man, it's nice because it's so nice because uh, then when you hit the dot here and it offers choices, the private ones aren't in there, and it is really nice. But he's just a master at that, like composing the code so that you got he's got a gift. He's absolutely got a gift. Okay, so let's just make sure that none of this is broken. I mean, we're not really making sure that none of it's broken, but it all seems to work, which doesn't surprise me because we are still calling all the same stuff. But we do know that we change it's in the st renderer service. Now in the st renderer service, we want to call that function now. This create animation for renderer, but we want to call it from our new class, not from the animation service. So I think what we can do, and this will be interesting. So I want to create a new class, and I guess that's going to be in my constructor. So let's just do this private. What is this called? ST animation service. ST animation, and it's not. I don't know why we call it an animation. Oh wait, this is our request frame service. I wonder if I still want this. Okay. So this is not a singleton. This is a function. This is a class. This is just a standard, good old-fashioned class. Plain old up JavaScript object. And then can I say new? Oh, okay. Okay, so I think this is completely new to me, so I don't know. Now in our constructor, I think we can construct it. And then we can pass it in everything that it needs, I think. Which, again, I'm not advocating for this. This is just something that I'm trying to understand. So these are everything that I want to pass in. I don't know if this is a good idea or not. I would never, like at my current job or any job I've ever had, I would never do what I'm doing right now. Just to be crystal clear. Okay, so do we have our STC? Yes, we do have an ST service. So I think I can just go like this. This dot. I don't even know if this is going to compile or transpile. Okay, do we have our ST mesh service? Do not have our ST mesh service. And it's like I've never really had these thoughts, but like, yeah, should should that be a singleton? Should it be? Yeah, that's interesting. Private ST mesh service. Is equal to, let me see. It's my daughter-in-law. Hey Jordan, I'm in the middle of my YouTube at the moment, so it's recording. But oh no, you're good. Is everything okay or? Okay, love ya. Bye. ST mesh service. ST mesh service equals inject, and then ST mesh service, and then ooh, gonna compile that. So I'm going to do this, and I want to, like, I don't want to do too much code um, without like checking the transpiler, just make sure this stuff works. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to comment this code out, and then I'm going to comment this out, and I'm just going to hit save and just make sure nothing breaks. And what I'm really looking at is that this renders. Okay, so that worked. So I'm going to hit Control Z and Control Z, and let's move on. We want our 3 mesh service. Oh wait, we want to make this a this, and then do we already have our mesh service? We do not. We have our scene service, but not our mesh service. So private mesh service, and it's mesh service, and that's equal to inject mesh service, and then mesh this dot mesh service, and rinse and repeat. It's not that's going to break because that's not legal. And again, I just cannot. I know I've said it like 5 times, but like I am on uncharted ground here. I'm doing stuff I've never done before. I'm playing with mental ideas that I've never really played around with before. Okay, so 3 scene service. So we do have our scene service already. I don't know what I just did there, but let's get rid of that. Okay, so we already have our scene service. So it's this dot small. There we go. And then camera service. Okay. So these are our ST, these are our 3, and then this is our animation service. Okay, so we actually already have this one. And that one is going to go away, right? That one's not going to be around. So we want our 3 camera service, private camera service is equal to camera service, and we're going to inject it. And camera service. I feel like I'm definitely doing something very silly right now. This does not feel like right. This dot camera. My confidence level is very low on this. Okay, and renderer service. And we need our 3 renderer service. I'm guessing this probably already has a renderer service. No. Private renderer. So just to be clear, I don't think any of these services can inject this service. If it does, then we'll get the error. So we're at very high risk of creating a cyclic or error right now. Render. Ooh. Ooh. Service. Oh, so we already had it. And I thought we must have already had it. Okay, so I'm just going to move it up here with the rest of the 3. There we go. So that's good. We already had that, so that seems to be safe. But I do think that I'm sort of, right now I'm playing with fire. And I do think there is a good chance that I am destroying my project. I hope not. Okay, so that's all working now. Okay, so now I want to render, what was this function called? It was, oh, create. Okay, so instead of that, so let me copy this whole thing. And comment that out, and then W2. But instead of animation service, we want to use this dot. I think it's ST animation service. Is that right? This dot. Oh, request animation frame service. I feel like that shouldn't even be called a service. I feel like the word service, and then, oh, I think it is a different name, dot create for ID. And that is, I believe we pass in a whole render. Oh, we needed something else though. That's right. This wants 2 arguments. It needs the it needs the ST animations. And so I don't know exactly ST this dot animation service dot. And I don't, okay, so, and this doesn't have the animation, it has the IDs. So let's go back over to our animation service. It's this. This is how we make our ST animations. So this is our, okay, this is our, we are in our animation service. So really what I want to do is I want to say over here, get ST animations. Okay, so, all right, so the animations come from the ST mesh. So I think this little chunk of code knows how to get the animations for, knows how to get the animations for a given mesh. Does that seem, I guess that seems like, okay, get animations for get ST animations for mesh, for ST mesh. and it is going to return an array of ST animations. And it's going to you do that? Is that how you do that? No, do that. Yeah. For an animation, it's going to accept a mesh. It's going to accept a whole mesh. Okay, so what is this doing? Okay, so this is actually getting okay, so this is getting a whole scene. It's getting all the meshes for the scene, and then it's iterating over all the. Okay, so this shouldn't be for ST mesh, it should be for ST scene. So we want all the animations for an ST scene. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It's so weird. I'm trying to imagine like, okay, so we have a bunch of so the meshes will be able to share IDs. I don't think that's a problem. All right, so we're getting all these for a scene. We're getting an ST scene in here, and that is of type ST scene. And then basically all of this code goes in there. Oof. Oh, that sucks. Okay. So what sucks about this is, okay, so we go in, we loop over every mesh, and then we loop over every property of the mesh. Oh my God, this code. Okay. So the problem with this code right now is that okay, so this set of code here goes through each animation. If 3 mesh. What the hell? And then it looks at this 3 mesh thing. Which is okay, so it goes in, it goes through and updates every 3 mesh. So really what this is doing is not this is so I think I like okay, so it looks like we kind of bumbled our way into a much better way of doing this over here because I just get all the animations, the whole list of animations. But the problem is this is not I don't think this over here is a comprehensive list of the animations that need to be updated because we're just looping over each of these meshes. So really what I wanted to do is, okay, so yeah, so this is just doing way too much. Okay, so we have our animations. Okay, so we're back to this. Okay, so we're going to get a list of animations. So basically, I'm off track now. I need to clean this code up, make this a little bit more broken down into individual pieces. It's doing too much, so it has prevented me from being able to break this code out because this function is working across too many different topics. And too many different subjects it's working on. And so now, because of that, I've started to, I've, these different subjects can't be pulled apart anymore they, uh, because they're dependent on each other. And that means that we are in a situation where, I mean, and this is a situation like where I'll often say, once you get to 10 files in a directory, in a folder, you can't really break them out anymore. You won't be able to subdivide them anymore. And it's because they just start to interact with each other too much. That's exactly where, like, I'm on the verge of this piece of code not being able to be sort of locked into place into this like structure, and this structure cannot scale very well. Like, I can't just keep adding lines of code in here or things will become unwieldy, and I can't pull things out because I have all these things affecting each other. So basically, let's just go ahead and comment this out for now. And then let's go ahead and say, okay, so this is all of the meshes. All of the mesh IDs for a scene. That's what this is. And then we need to go through and get every mesh. Right? So get the mesh for current ID. And then this, and this is the ST mesh. And then this gets the 3 mesh for the current ID. Get the ThreeJS mesh for current ID. And then this is, see, this is from the ST mesh. So let's go ahead and just move this line up here. Didn't matter, you know, like it doesn't matter, but if we're going to break things out, it probably will help. Get the animation IDs for the current mesh ID. Mesh ID. Mesh ID. All right, now we want to go over our animations. Okay, get the full animation for each ID. Actually, what we do, and create an array. And then update the ThreeJS mesh for the 3 mesh. Mesh and its animation object. All right. So basically, this code here has to get pulled out. Right? Like the mesh service, it makes sense for the mesh service to get this ID, to use the ST message mesh service to get the ID. Getting our animation IDs makes sense here. But see, I think what needs to happen really is like this code really needs to be outside of this loop. And really what needs to happen is, but the problem is that we need this mesh. And see, this is where the mesh happens. So it seems like what needs to happen is we need to one, get a list of actual three meshes, then ha so just so that so that piece is, we need to separate this from a big for loop into a bunch of small functions, right? So basically we're gonna, before we can do anything, we need to get, okay, so need to make an array of ST meshes, right? So that's all the ST meshes need to be in their own array, right? And that, because of that, we'll, with that, we'll be able to actually get all the animations, because the animations exist inside the array. So, but see, the animations matter for, okay, so, okay, need to make an array of animations. No. Now, see, that's it. That's all I can do here. Well, so we need to make our array of meshes. And then for each mesh, we need to, or, maybe we need to send all the meshes to a function and then that function does stuff. Or maybe yeah, yeah. And then pass that. All right. So that's gonna, now can we do everything? Does it need access to anything outside of here other than the mesh IDs? And maybe we just need to pass this list of mesh IDs to a, yeah, it looks like that's what we need to do. We need to just yank this out and make it its own function. And then we need to, so this, do that, then do this in that function, then do this, and then call another function that does this, that takes an animation ID. Oh, wait. Okay. No, all this is, okay. Yeah. Do the, yeah, probably call, send this to a function, 3mesh, something that knows how to deal with this and this. And this piece here needs to be in our UI service. No, it needs to be in our 3 service. See, right now we're in our ST. No, we're in our UI request animation frame service. Oh, it needs to be, yeah. So this, we need a 3 animation service that knows that, and that's where this needs to go. This can take an animation and a 3 mesh and update the property for that. This update property. Yeah, and we have been saying that too. Update property needs to go into the 3. All right, so is it working right now? I see we have red. I definitely have blown my mind enough for today. And it is hour 24 minutes, so this is a really long video. Sorry about that. But I'm like honestly just like learning from scratch right now. Like a brand new kind of concept. Um, It's completely driven out of just the fact that you can't. Okay, I don't think this will save. Let's see. Let's hit save. See if anything breaks. Okay, so that broke. Where is it broken? Where are we broken? So it's upset about an identifier not being found in the 3 renderer service. Okay, yeah, let's undo this, 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 and Control Z, and Control Z, and Control Z. There we go. All right. So we are trying to take animation service and tease it apart into smaller pieces, and it's a freaking struggle. And the problem is the pieces that we're trying to tease apart from each other are completely deeply coupled to each other right now. And so I'm trying to uncouple them, and that is not easy. It is much harder than I was expecting it to be. Um, so, so there's that. So now yeah. So basically, I guess I was kind of hoping to be able to just go straight from here to here, but it looks like what I need to do is sort of hollow this completely out, and then like maybe this will end up just being like a one-liner, and then because it's basically returning a function that's just doing behaviors, and that function gets called in the request animation frame. It's that simple. Um, but it could literally just call one function, one thing, and that could be for renderer. Yeah, so I do like the rename though. So this animation creates an animation function for renderer. And the goal is the 30,000 foot goal for the end of this sort of effort that I'm in, this branch that I'm working on, is for this to not even exist anymore when it's done, and for it to be part of a smaller set of things. And so the renderer service would call the request animation frame service to say, hey, can you go ahead and animate or give me a function that does that? But it looks like that. Yeah, it looks like we're kind of in an odd chicken and egg thing where it's like I need like this probably needs to be able to interact with like the other animation services before I can do it. I don't know. But anyways, I'll have a night to think on it. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.